Shalom, and welcome again to Shorshim, the Old City, here in the Old City of Yerushalayim. I hope you can hear me fine. Just a very short message based on this week's Torah portion. The Torah portion this week is Beha'alotcha, Numbers 8, verse 1 to chapter 12, verse 16. And I want to talk about lighting the darkness. We're in the midst of a world that's filled with an almost overwhelming wave of darkness. And sometimes that darkness scares us because we give it more power than it truly has. And the secret to how to deal with that darkness is really found in this week's Torah portion. So let's begin. Again, we're in Numbers 8, and let's begin with verse 1. In Hebrew, וידבר השם אל משה לאמור, דבר אל אהרון ואמרת עליו בהעלותך את הנרות אל מול פני המנורה, יאירו שבעת הנרות ויעש כן אהרון, he did exactly that, אל מול פני המנורה, העלה נרותיה כאשר ציווה השם את משה. In English, Hashem spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to Aaron and say to him, when you light the lamps, בהעלותך את הנרות, the 7 lamps shall cast their light towards the face of the menorah. Aaron did so. He lit the lamps towards the face of the menorah as Hashem had commanded Moshe. Verse 1 to verse 3. Now, what are we meant to learn? So first of all, again, we're dealing with a world that is overwhelmed with darkness. And the menorah that Hashem puts in this world was really about how to bring a little bit of God's light back in the world. When God created the world, he says, and let there be light. And then later on, he creates sun and moon. What does he need that for? I mean, he already had created the light. That light was the clear light of Hashem. And he created it to show that it was there, but then hid it, because that would have been probably too much for mankind. But that was the end of where mankind had to reach. He had to yearn to return back to that light. The menorah had a little bit of that light, brought down God's light and put it into the temple and actually shone through the windows to bring light to the world. Most castles, if you've seen feudal castles, they have a wide area on the inside. A wide area on the outside to bring light in, and then a very narrow on the inside so that you can be protected. That wasn't the case in the temple. The temple, the inside was wide to bring the light of the menorah out into the world. And the reality is that it's about dealing with the darkness of the world, but darkness always fills the void when light ceases to shine. We need to remember that. Darkness is something that occurs in the absence of light. It has no power of its own. When there is less light, darkness appears. Darkness fills in that void. And sometimes the darkness seems to engulf the world like we're feeling today, and we start giving darkness a power of its own, as if it somehow is creeping into the world and overtaking it. That's not the case. It's because we aren't bringing enough light back into the world. So the darkness that spread through the world has been around for a very long time and seems to be growing. But in fact, if you spend the time to look, you'll begin to see the first glimpses, the first crack of dawn, the first light in the horizon. It's there. And it's showing up in so many different places. Our job, in order to bring light back into the world, is first of all, find those little sparks of light and bring it together. When you connect the dots, suddenly the darkness is irrelevant, immaterial, and disappears. So it's our responsibility to do that, to make those connections, to be a lamplighter. One of the great sages, for us, many of us, he was the rabbi of the past generation, was Rav Kook, the first chief rabbi of Israel. And he said, the purely righteous, in Torah, he says, the purely righteous don't complain about the dark, they increase the light. That's our job. How do we increase light into the world that seemingly is engulfed by darkness? So I think we can learn all that from the first lamplighter we see in the Torah, which is Aaron. Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, speak there and say to him, when you light the lamps. Ba'alotcha tanerot. Literally, by the way, it doesn't say when you light the lamps, it's when you raise the flame, the lamp. The 7 lamps shall cast their light towards the face of the menorah, etc., etc. And then it says, Aaron did so. He lit the lamps towards the face of the menorah as Hashem had commanded Moshe. So first we're told that Aaron had to light the candles. And you wonder, why? I mean, if God's light is from God, then let him miraculously bring light into the world. In fact, we read in Leviticus, and there came forth fire from before Hashem and consumed upon the altar the burnt offering, the fat. When all the people saw it, they shouted and fell on their faces. Leviticus 9, verse 24. Why didn't that miracle continue? Because Hashem wants us to participate in his creation. He could do it all. He could bring it all. He could consistently bring light into the world. He wants us to be his language. Menachem Mendel Vitebsk, Rav Menachem Mendel Vitebsk once says, what language does God speak? We, mankind, is a language of God. He wants us to be the tools in which he expresses himself. So he gives Aaron the job, and therefore all people who want to be a lamplighter, the job to bring light into the world. The problem is that at times people who see themselves as lamplighters or actually succeed in bringing some light into the world become so enamored of who they are, of their role, of their job, that they begin to forget who it is that the source of all that light is about. They begin to assume it's me, it's my ability to speak, my ability to convince, to argue. So what happens? The verse goes on to say that and Aaron did just vayas ken Aaron. The verse comes to tell us that Aaron did exactly as Hashem told Moshe. He goes on, Ka'asher tziva Hashem et Moshe, he lit the lamps towards the face of the menorah exactly as Hashem had commanded Moshe. Obedience to that higher calling, that's the prescription for spiritual elevation. That's the prescription for bringing divine light into the world. Be obedient to that higher calling. It all comes from him. It doesn't come from you. You are clearly a partner when you decide to be a partner in God's creation. But remember, all that light, all the source of that goodness comes from him. But there's one very important aspect, and another one, to being a lamplighter. The lamplighter has to understand that has to believe in the power of the wick to receive the flame. The first verse in the Torah portion is critical because literally translated, when you raise the lamps, Ba'alotcha and Menorot, the 7 lamps shall cast their light. Rashi explains, what is it to raise the lamp, to raise the fire? What do you mean raise the fire? Light the fire, ignite the fire? No. Hashem said Aaron had to take the flame and bring it right to the edge of the wick until the flame burst forth from the wick. Aaron had to believe in that wick, had the ability to become a flame. We have to believe when we speak to other people that every single one of us has God's breath in us, and we have to believe, regardless of what they believe about themselves, regardless of what others believe about them, we have to believe that they have a spark of holiness within them, and our job is to warm them, bring them closer, believe in them, and let that flame burst out from inside. Because that's what Hashem wants. Hashem wants us all to find that power within ourselves. We don't want to do it because we've been cajoled, pushed. We want to do it because we know inside of ourselves, inside of our own neshama, our own breath of God, our own soul, that we have the power to bring God's light into the world. So in essence, we need to be that. We need to, first of all, be obedient to higher calling. Realize that we are a partner in what Hashem wants to do, but more than anything else, believe in the people we're trying to bring light into their lives. Because to be honest, when you bring light into their lives, you're looking in a mirror. The light you're trying to share, you need to be illuminated by that same light, but you need to believe in that other person's capability of bearing that light, of exuding that light. So in Pirkei Avot we read, and with this I'll end, be like the sons of Aaron. He said, love peace, pursue peace, love people, and draw them near to Torah. As a result, of doing that out of love, Hashem will truly light and dispel all the darkness. So don't give up hope in the darkness. Don't lose faith in yourselves. Don't lose faith in the process the world is going through. But know that even in those people that don't understand what you believe in and stand in, their soul does understand. Love that in them. And it'll bring that flame to burst forth from their own hearts, their own soul. So Shabbat Shalom. Have a wonderful Shabbat. And we will see you all again, God willing, or at least you'll see me and I'll see your responses on the emails. Thank you for emailing us. Thank you for contacting us at shorashimshop@yahoo.com with your questions. Sometimes that leads to whole other discussions. Thank you for those of you that are supporting us on the website. That actually helps us in this time of people not sure when they can come. Could they come? Should they come? That helps us. And thank you for listening and your responses, like the ones that are coming online right now. Thank you. And we will speak and be in touch again next week. So be in touch with us at shorashimshop@yahoo.com. Visit our website and our YouTube channel. Visit our website at shorashimshop.com. And Shabbat Shalom. Leitraot. Bye-bye.